Hey Seekers, and welcome back to The Hanged Woman. I'm your host Julienne Irons, and this month we're exploring happiness from 3 different perspectives: practical, scientific, and energetic. In our last episode, Dr. Demarty Burgos offered a radical reframe about the signs of happiness. And next week, we'll wrap the series with Aisa Talia, who shares how joy itself can become a magnet for manifesting the life we want. Today, we're talking with Raquel Veisaga, who sees happiness as a frequency, not something to chase, but something to allow. She's going to help us identify the static that we've unknowingly given power to, which pulls us away from our natural state of joy. Raquel's approach goes beyond surface-level positivity, cutting through the well-meaning but sometimes limiting cliches of the self-help world. Y'all, I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. This is the Hanged Woman podcast, where perspective is power. Let's get into it. Hey, fellow seekers. I'm taking a quick pause from the show to share something really close to my heart. And honestly, the only reason you're even listening to this podcast right now. It's 3 of Cups. My sisters and I created 3 of Cups, an Iron Sisters mission of love, as a space for healing, beauty, growth, and community, because we believe life is meant to be full, rich, and abundant in every way. We offer all kinds of ways to support you: energy healing, heart-centered art, even marketing that will help you enhance your brand's presence in the world. Because wherever you are in your journey, we want to help you feel seen, supported, and empowered. So if you're looking for something to help fill your cup in whatever way you need, come join us. Follow us on Instagram at 3 of Cups Healing, or explore all of our offerings at 3ofcupshealing.com. Because Seeker, your cup deserves to be full. And now, back to the episode. Okay, so Raquel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. So why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the work that you do?
Well, I got to the work that I do because I was actually so depressed that I had a bout with like suicide at times. Even though I wasn't suicidal, I had suicidal ideation. Like I just wanted to just be done. Like
Mm,
if I could just go home, I would call it. I just wanted to go home. And with that being said, I had 2 children, and so I knew that that wasn't an option. And so with that, I started to delve within myself. Why was I so tired or resistant to living life full out?
mm,
And you wouldn't know that because I was actually a community leader at the time, and I was leading all these different fitness things, and I was a community leader in lots of projects and events. I was very involved with my kids, but I just really felt like I don't know that I want to say dead, but I just felt very numb
mm,
within myself. And so that took me down the journey of figuring out what I was numbing and what was obstructing me. And what I found is I didn't want to feel. I was
mm,
avoiding to feel my childhood. I was avoiding to feel the pain, the trauma, the different things that I had lived, which was pretty extreme from the age of 8 to like about 16. And so when I started unpacking that, I really started to find that when you get on the other side of things, there's happiness, there's joy. And so before I knew it, I was able to start helping people clear up what I call static or noise and what's obstructing them. Because in by nature, I have found out now that we're joyous,
mm.
but it's all these things that we pick up in life or the things, and it's not even the things that happen, it's what we made those things mean
Right.
that usually weigh heavy on us or change the identity of who we are. And it's those things that obstruct us from really connecting to the truth, because the truth is most people by nature are peaceful, happy, you know, loving individuals.
Okay, so you mentioned static. Can you explain what static is?
Like if you're trying to tune into a radio station, there's static, right? Like you hear the song, but you can't hear it clearly because
Mm,
there's static. Sometimes you could be living the very things you prayed for, but they're static. That meaning there's things that are obstructing you to really like embrace, be in the moment, live it, smell the roses, sing the song in your heart because it's not perfect. I can think back to when I did my daughter's quinceañera at
mm,
Disneyland, and looking back, I allowed so much static. Like the centerpieces were missing and I couldn't figure out the water. And oh my gosh, like I forgot these things at home. All these little BS things. That can be static. Or your mom may be saying something and then that throws you for a loop, or your sister making a comment and you taking internalizing it as a negative thing. That's what I call static. Versus when I asked my daughter what was the highlight of your quinceañera,
mm.
it wasn't that her whole team got to go to Knott's Berry Farm the day before while we were at the Airbnb getting stuff ready. It wasn't that it was at Disneyland. It was none of that. Her two things that she said was the highlight was when her brother came up to change her Converse tennis shoes to her heels, and he looked up at her and said, "You're so beautiful. You look so beautiful." She said she wanted to cry. And the other time she said was when I called my mother up to to the dance floor, and I recognized and I did this speech where I passed the wand from my mom to me and from me to her. And I recognize my mom as our matriarch. And the reason why we're united, in spite of everything that we've been through, she's shown us what pure and unconditional love. So that is like the moments, and we usually miss them because we're over here on they got somebody's order wrong and there's more steaks and chicken dinners than were ordered. And so it's just the little things. We're usually like obstructing ourselves because we're in survival mode and we haven't become conscious to see that we're making things be not the end of the world, but we are allowing them to not allow us to hear the song clearly and really like enjoy it. We're creating static.
And then you describe happiness as a frequency. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, we know that as individuals, especially as science is evolving, and we're not so close-minded, that we have an electric magnetic field from our heart, and we have an electric magnetic charge from our brain, our thoughts. And when you bring both of those together, those create your frequency.
Mm,
Okay. So, and when they're in coherency, they tend to create a higher frequency, right? So, for example, you can know that you should let it go mentally,
mhm,
but in your heart, you can forgive, but you can't forget, right? So it's like there's a dissonance there, or there's incoherency. And so you can't really be in happiness or you can't be in peace because you know you should forgive, but it's hard for your heart to follow along with your mind. And so when you create the electrical charges of your brain with the magnetic field of your heart, you then create a frequency. And so happiness is something that is a combination of our thoughts and our feelings, our beliefs and our thoughts. And so when you align those, that's when you get to experience bliss, happiness. You get to tap out of your human understanding of things and you get to tap more into like the divinity of things. And that's a frequency. And most of us have a hard time aligning to that frequency because again, we're in the noise, we're in the static, we're giving meaning, inaccurate meaning to things. Like an example, for the longest time, I thought my mom didn't love me because when I approached her, me and my brother, that I was being sexually abused and harassed at the age of 8, 9, and she, in our eyes, did nothing. She kept the predator there because
mhm.
he defended saying, "Oh, well, I already paid my rent this month." And I'm thinking, me present day, like, I don't care what you paid, you're going to jail, right? But when I grew up and that was so much pain for me. And I made that mean that she didn't care, that she didn't love me. But when I grew up and I decided not to just understand on a surface level that she was wrong, and I started to delve in, like, well, what was going on in her? Okay, she's got a second grade education. Okay. B, she was sexually abused herself. Okay. She was tormented and had some very crazy things happen in her teenage years. And the number one thing that she feared the most is losing her family because at the age of 10, when she lost her mom, within 24 to 48 hours, all of her 11 siblings were given away to different homes. So she can handle some sexual abuse, but do not take her loved ones away from her. So in her head,
Mm.
at that age, she's thinking, oh, CPS is going to find out and they're going to take all my kids away. Because that's one of the things she told me. You can't say anything because then they'll take all your brothers away. So at that age, and it still sucks and it's unfair, nonetheless, now I can comprehend and the undertone where she was in survival mode of like, this sucks, but I must do what I need to do to keep my family together. And this is so brief, me explaining this. There's so many moving parts.
Mm.
With that being said, when I remove the noise, the static of what I think I know and what I think I understand on a surface level, and I actually go deep to the human soul, I was able to start seeing just so much confusion and so much lack and ignorance, uh, lack of education, fear, being an immigrant, and you can't go to cops.
Right.
And you can, but that's how they feel that they can't. And
Mm.
I don't know, modern day, that might be questionable too. With that being said, though, there's just so much fear. And so a lot of the times our fear, our inaccurate thinking, our inconcise interpretations, all of that blocks us from the truth. And so that's what I've seen, that it's very hard for us to get to the frequency of love because we're on such a surface level of being judgmental or interpreting things incorrectly.
How do we go about making our thoughts and our heart be cohesive? I understand that in your situation, you went back and you thought about your mom's history and the things that she's been through, and that made you understand her perspective a bit more. But what are some other ways that we can allow our thoughts and our heart to connect?
It's a journey. So sometimes, like, I see this in marriages a lot. They don't realize that they're attacking each other instead of attacking the problem.
Mm.
And sometimes just taking a step back and realizing, do you really think, look at what you're saying or look at the claim you're making. So basically, that would mean that your spouse doesn't care for you or love you. Do you really believe that? And then people will take a step, no, well, I know he loves me, or I know she loves me. Okay, then where is this coming from? Where's this interpretation? Where's the miscommunication? And when we try to go to the source of like, where is this person in truth? Because most often we're interpreting things from our wounds. That's the noise. Most often we're filtering
Mm.
from our past experience, but that isn't the present. And so we'll end up attacking our loved one, our friend, our spouse, our boss, our employee, whatever it is, because we don't even realize that we're in a loop. So just one thing is starting to become reflective.
Mm.
Let me take a step back. How much of this is valid and I can honor because it's feeling,
Mhm.
but how much of this is factual in the stance that I'm proposing this is coming from. And then when you break it down like that, you start to be able to strip the inaccuracies in things. You start to see your reasoning. You might be a little bit defensive. You might be coming a little bit from past experience. You might be transferring from past experience to present. And so when you start to do that, just becoming a conscious being, because we are very responsive, very reactive, and that usually places us in constantly being somewhere in the past, and we're not even recognizing it. And so when you get clear on your thoughts, that's going to allow your feelings to change because there's some stillness between the one breath to the next. And it's in that interim that you really can start to find answers. So meditation is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I just had somebody yesterday in my yoga class was tell me, you had said that happens, but that had never happened for me. And he's been doing yoga with me for a few years. And he says, but it happened. I got some huge ahas. And it was just because I always say when you're I don't even call this meditation. I just say, put your timer on for 2 minutes and you're just going to focus on your breath, observing the inhale and enjoying the exhale. And if a thought, a feeling, a distraction, a sensation comes up, in that moment, tell your brain, thank you, not right now.
Mm.
And if you have to say that 20 times in the 2 minutes, don't get frustrated. With that being said, that's how you start to ungrip yourself from being so dense in your past emotions, in your survival mode.
And then once we do that, we can open ourselves up more to the frequency of happiness.
Yes, 100, because that's I go back to what I said originally. By nature, look at a baby.
Mm.
They're just happy, they're go lucky, they're curious, they look at you and they smile. That's our nature.
Mhm.
What happened in life that got a hold of us, that robbed us of that, that's what you do when you use your breath. When you go back to your breath, when you get yourself out of this constant beliefs and thoughts that are probably inaccurate from misinterpretations that we did, you go back to your nature. It's why they say take 7 deep breaths when something happens. You might not get happy, but all of a sudden you're not losing your mind, right? And that's a lot happier than losing your mind.
Yeah.
So the breath is such a powerful thing. Like it's so beautiful. Also, when you allow yourself to just many a times we don't understand or sit with our bodies to sense, why am I unhappy? Or what do I feel is missing?
Mm.
Just checking in with yourself. We're not used to doing that. And again, when you do that, you're going to find that half the things that are causing you stress or keeping you from your happiness are only as serious as the meaning that you're giving it.
Mm.
You have the power. Like, I really want people to understand you have the power and how much you're going to make something mean. You get a flat tire and it could be the end of your day and this is horrible and it can ruin your whole day. Or you could be like, okay, I'm going to call AA or I'm going to get support. Who has AA or how can I get this taken care of? And then while you're waiting for AA, I'm going to get to my emails. Or you know what? I'm going to take this time and call so and so because I've been meaning to call. Like, you are then not going back to like, this is the end of the world. It's just like where you're wiring yourself from.
Mm.
You have to realize like, what is your blueprint? And that's what I mean about like taking a beat, step back, like you looking at yourself, like, what is my set point?
Mm.
And that's really where what creates happiness. Happiness is a choice that we get to make. And often we're not presented with that reality.
What is our blueprint? What does that mean?
Okay, so your blueprint is, I think if we're going to build a house, right? We need the blueprints.
Hmm.
At a very young age, you made a lot of connections neurologically,
Hmm.
right? And neurologically, that connects, you have neurons in your heart. And so you created this idea, this set blueprint of what you need to be happy. So for a lot of people, the blueprint is I need to have success, I need to have a certain car, I need to live a certain way, I need to have a certain degree so that I can, that's your blueprint. You have like the checklist of what you need to construct
Mm.
this life that would make you happy. But the truth is that a lot of people have this blueprint, they get the house, they get the vacations, they get the savings, they get the kids, and they have midlife crisis because they're not any happier. It's momentary. The new car wears off after a while. The the title, there's people getting 3, 4, 5 degrees because it never is enough,
Mm.
right? And that's your blueprint because society-wise, that was the social construct we were given. But at the end of the day, that might not be what makes you happy. And so just really kind of like understanding, well, where's my blueprint? And is it mine? Again, checking in with yourself, being conscious and reflective, like, is this what I want? I'll give you an example. One thing that I get from a lot of people is like, how are you not on Oprah? How do you not have tens of thousands of people on the stages when they come to my courses or they do it in my workshops? And I just smile because they think that's what would make me happy. That's
Mm.
what would make me successful. But I tell you, when my daughter told me like 6, 7 years ago, I don't know what happened, but she says, man, the day you die, the way that that place is going to be standing room only.
Mm.
That makes me happy when I pour and I grab somebody out of the trenches, I pull them out of the river. When I've trained people, I have a coaching company and I've trained people now to help people pull out people out of the river. And then I go up to see why they're falling in the river
Yeah.
because now I've created a team, right? That makes me happy. And that's not the norm. That's not the social construct of what's supposed to be. Because people think I would be happy if I'm driving a certain car and living in a certain place,
Mm.
and I smile because I have a client that we just locked in a multi-million-dollar contract with a huge, it's just huge. I have another client that just got married, and I know I was a part of, helping him work through some stuff in his heart. And he's one of the most successful, he's a very successful person in Hollywood, let's say, for example, right? You see, I see all these people have all these things, and still here I'm the one behind the scenes coaching us because at the end of the day, it's not the things, it's not the stuff, it's not the degrees. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go after that stuff. That stuff is great. But when you're trying to go because that's the blueprint that you think that's going to make you happy, it's not going to make you happy. It's when you're happy, you have the energy and the ability to create whatever you want. You could
Yeah.
create a life you love.
Yeah.
So that's just really kind of like, so a few things, like we said, learning to be reflective, taking a step back, taking some breaths, really starting to see why you feel the way you feel, why you're responding the way you're responding, using breath as a tool. Second, what's your blueprint? Like, are you really, and I think that can get very confusing for people because everyone wants to find their purpose,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And far from making you happy to find your purpose, I find that people feel more confused and lost and pressure from finding their purpose. And that's a social construct again, because I tell people, think about like when you have a baby or a 6 or 7 year old, you don't tell your child, you got to find your purpose.
Right.
They are our purpose.
Right.
That precious human life is our purpose. What changed?
Mm.
What changed?
What did change?
Yeah, why did it all of a sudden
Yeah.
when I'm in my 20s, I got to find my purpose?
Mm.
What changed from when I was the purpose?
Does that come from a scarcity mindset? Because when I think about what changed, it's like, okay, I'm 20 now. I have to go to school so I can learn how to live on my own and make my own money and not, be homeless, be able to learn how to feed myself. And so I feel like I have to find this purpose in order to allow myself to be able to do that, but also be able to do that in a joyful way, like in a way that makes me happy. Like if it is my purpose that's allowing me to, live the life that I want to live, then is that not a good thing?
That's a very good thing, but often we lose the purpose because we get into a mental construct. And so we rob ourselves coming from the heart. And so I'll give you an example. A little bit over a year and a half ago, I went from being a solo coach that I had done for 9 years up to that point, really almost 20, because my yoga is what created the foundation. I guess I was coaching way before. I finally made it official in 2015. And so in 2024, I incorporated. And at that time, I had poured myself into a few other people and trained them to do what I do. And all of a sudden, okay, we want to reach the masses, right? Because we see what we do in people's life. You go look at my reviews, you talk to people who work with me, it's like, whoa, like life changes, life trajectory change. It's just like, it's just miracles, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, well, that's what I want for anyone and everyone I can reach, right? But I incorporated, so okay, well, we got to do these funnels and we got to hire this company. And we've hired like three different companies. We hired an interim CEO, like lead us. We just really want to get this to the matches. Guess what slowly became the thing? The numbers, the algorithm, social media. And it's like a few months ago, I told basically, I consider her my partner. I was like, this is BS. Like, no. Like the thing that has always made us spread like wildfire is the word of mouth. Because when you see a good movie or you taste something good, you want your loved one to taste it, right? And I go, we need to go back to that. I don't care about funnels. I don't want to hear the word funnels ever again or automation or whatever that is, you know? I want to talk about coherency and peace and happiness and rewiring and neurogenesis and neuroplasticity and letting you actually feel it and live it and be it, right? And so I am power, love, and light. I've always said that. I don't need a purpose. I am the purpose. And when I am present to that truth, guess what happens? I become infectious and contagious to anyone that I cross. And then I don't have to have a purpose. Me just being me is the purpose. So, yes, get your education. Yes, let's not be homeless. Let's not forget what vein we're coming from, though. Like, let's keep that clear.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. It writes
Hmm.
itself.
One thing I really love about the work that you do is you have a beautiful intersection where science meets spirit. I've heard you talk about neurolinguistic reprogramming. I've heard you talk about, in a previous conversation, you talked about brain spotting, and then you also talk about spirit. So, how do those two things work together in order for us to live our most authentic, happy, joyful lives?
I love physics. Physics is science. And the thing about physics is that if it's true, it will be true across the board in any endeavor or situation. That's the thing about physics. Well, what is science? Is that something gets tested over and over and over again to get the same hypothesis or get the same result, and then that's like validated, right? And then what is spirit? It's the I am. It is. It may not make sense, it may not make reason,
Hmm.
it just is, right? That's science. It's just trying to prove the what is. They're one. In one is you just have like an idea that they're separate, but at the end of the day, especially in these last years, you're seeing a lot of medicine, a lot of tech, a lot of science delve into the archaic Eastern spiritual methodologies to start to put things together. And so for me, I've always seen them as one. I see what people call universe, natural laws, God, as the greatest science that there ever was. We just haven't uncovered and understood it fully. And a lot of the times is because we're trying to understand it from a very finite binaural, meaning black or white understanding, instead of multidimensional, which is the heart, which is spirit. And sometimes, that saying, the heart wants what it wants, right? And you can understand. You're like, but this is like, let's say a guy, this is my type. What was I thinking here, right? The heart wanted what it wanted,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was essence, it was energy, it was spirit. Their spirit called you, and it broke all your laws of what you thought, was your standards or
Yeah.
your type or what have you. And so for me, they're not separated. I think they're only separated because man made it be so. Yet truth always prevails, and we're going back to where we're starting to really see the science world engage with the spirit world.
And how do we use these two modalities together to find more joy and to find more happiness in our lives?
Let's stop the destination, the becoming, the achieving, the healing, and just really being present, allowing life to become
Mm.
technicolor. Like if I'm going to be here, I'm here with you. I'm here with you 100%. And so again, going back to dropping into your breath, taking a step back, releasing all these mental social constructs, actually just connecting to you are the purpose. You are enough. You are whole. You are complete. And in that, in
Mm.
your breath and stopping all the noise, all the static, all the social constructs, you're just life force. Like you're literally just life force. And with that life force, now you could go do all the things you want to do. But now you're not doing those things to make you happy. You're doing those things because you're tinkering, you're discovering, you're playing, you're creating, seeing what all, oh, messed up, totally won't do that one that way. But you're not making it mean that you're a failure, that you erred, that you effed it up, that no, oops, my bad, you know? And then, okay, let me try it this way. I can think about my company and how much I failed over and over and over again. It's never swayed me or discouraged me because I'm so committed to the purpose of what we're here to do, what I am. So that never could be a failure. Think of Edison, right? 10,000 tries to get the light bulb. Imagine if he would have been, he obviously was passionate,
Mm.
determined, perseverant. He had the capacity, the potential, the possibility. He had a vision and he was living that out. Like, what would it look like if
Mm.
we stop making things to be happy and we just really like allowed it to be the song in our soul that we're looking to find the beat for? Happy doesn't always look like it's bliss with a margarita on the beach. And so I think sometimes redefining really what is happiness.
If we're redefining what happiness is, that means that happiness can shift throughout our lifetime, or the feeling of happiness can shift throughout our lifetime.
I love that. I love what you just said, that it can shift throughout our lifetime. That is just infinite wisdom right there. Yes. Because I know that the things I wanted for my kids to make them happy when they were younger are not the same today. So there has to be a shift. The things that, I just shared with you right before we got on the podcast, how I'm really going into my fitness and health journey because from the age of 12, I joined my first gym and I did like two a days almost soon after. When I moved states, I would be at a gym within 24 to 48 hours. That made me happy. But I can say from like 2015 to 2025, the gym didn't make me happy.
Mm.
Meditating, praying, sitting with myself, discovering, uncovering, unpacking, releasing, facing myself, removing the noise and the static, that made me happy.
Mm.
And then now, mid 2025, guess what's making me super happy? Fitness again. It, it shifts, right? It's this ebb and web. And so
Yeah.
I think really redefining happiness to you.
Mm,
That's a big one
mm.
because the social construct is that happiness is having money.
Yeah.
And hey, like I love money. That's a great thing to have because it allows me to do lots of things and allows me to love on people I love. But at the end of the day, if I could have all those things just because they're gifted or favored, I don't care about money then. So it's just like really understanding the undertone of things. We're living too much in a shallow surface understanding of life.
Mm,
And so really starting to, which I love your podcast and what you're doing, which is that's what I would say. You don't need to find your purpose. You are purpose because that's what you're doing in this podcast. You're going for depth.
yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You're a resource to answers.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think if you think about it, doesn't that make you happy?
Yeah, it does. And I get to do it with my sister, so that's even more
Yeah,
happy.
I get that. One of my coaches in my company is my sister, and I totally understand what you mean.
Oh, I'm obsessed with them. Okay, Seekers, I think this is a really great place to take a break. We'll be right back with the episode. The Empress's heart is art made from love, loss, and flowers. Every piece begins with intention, rooted in the belief that beauty can bloom from even the heaviest seasons of life. Using real pressed flowers, crystals, and feathers, the Empress's heart transforms grief and memory into something tangible. A reminder that joy, love, and connection can live alongside loss. From one-of-a-kind works for your home to deeply personal custom pieces, each creation holds a story. Every petal is placed with care, every detail chosen with purpose. Whether it's honoring a loved one, celebrating new beginnings, or simply adding beauty to your space, the Empress's heart is here to help fill your home and your heart with something meaningful. Fill your heart and your cup at threeofcupshealing.com. All of this is making me realize how much the static of everything truly impacts our joy and truly impacts our happiness. So, what are some common sources of static that we might not even realize we've empowered?
Giving away your identity. So having to have a new backpack every year for school because you gotta look fresh. Like, do you really need that? Because then that sometimes becomes pressure.
Mm,
And I'm not saying again, it's
mm,
you have to sit with yourself, like what is it for you? Like just really starting to see, well, why am I doing this? I used to do this thing where I'd pack my day full because, oh, I'm gonna be out in this area, and so I need to pack and see everyone I can in this area. And I was like, that I'd be dead by the end of the day, right? So then, okay, where is that coming from? Or I go on
yeah.
vacations. I never do vacations this way. I don't try to sightsee everything that is there in that city because I have a mentality of I'll be back. Whatever I miss on this trip, I'll be back and I'll watch it the next time. I'm not going to be in scarcity like this is my one time here at this country or this city.
Yeah.
And so just kind of really like understanding how you're operating, looking at like how am I operating and
Mm,
why am I operating this way? And most of the time you're going to find it's coming from scarcity or fight or flight or survival mode. And so really starting to
mm,
decide, well, what's the identity? Like I take an identity of I am abundant. So that's an identity I've taken. That identity has helped me when I go on vacations. Like I said, I'm not running everywhere. I'm actually enjoying being present with the locals or being present where I am and taking it in. And so,
mhm.
one of the big things to really call happiness forward is being there. And we hear that so much, being present. Okay, I understand you understand at an intellectual level, but are you embodying it at a physical level?
What does that mean?
So We are not just a physical being. We are not just a spiritual being. We are not just a bundle of emotions, an emotional being. And we're not just an intellectual being. We are all those things. We're mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. So sometimes you'll do something because intellectually you're like, well, that's the way to do it. But you're not really embodying it physically because your nervous system doesn't know how to receive that goodness.
Can you give me an example of that?
You wanted to move into the city. That was a big goal. That was a big goal. And you reached the goal. And you're here in your apartment and it's beautiful and you're looking around and you did it. And then all of a sudden, there's these nerves. And now you're a little bit like, oh my gosh, rent is due every month. Am I going to be able to maintain that? And now you start to get into fear. Oh, I have to do 8 podcasts instead of 4. I'm just throwing an example out, right? Or I have to do this or whatever it is that you do for money. Now you put yourself in that survival loop. You never really got to enjoy that you're there in the city with your beautiful apartment, vibing at the frequency of how beautiful it is, and then just continuing in your joy so things keep aligning for you. You all of a sudden made something like a problem or a challenge because we do that a lot.
So when do we do the work? Is it about being very conscious of, okay, I'm making this trip to New York, checking in with my body to see how my body feels about it, and adjusting our nervous system to be able to be comfortable with that move? Or do we have to wait until we get there? Because I feel like sometimes we think that it's going to be one way and then we get there and it's like, oh shit, this was not at all what I expected. And our nervous system gets fired up. So how do we go about adjusting that?
So again, it's going to be breath. It's going to be breath. I did an interview with a high super executive coach. He coaches people like AT&T and T and things like the CEOs of AT&T, right? And I tell him, if you had one tip to give to people, what would it be? And he said, breathe. And I loved it because, and he's a psychiatrist or psychologist. I don't know. He has like all the credentials and everything. And I just was so vindicated in that moment because I work with so many people and they look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them, I need you to breathe. They just breathe because the physical, the nervous system is always like firing and wiring. It's buzzing because it's in survival mode. And you just really stop yourself to breathe. It seems like such a simple answer that people resist it. But the reason that it's simple, it's because it's spiritual.
What do you mean by that?
What's the first thing you did when you came on earth?
Took a big breath of air.
What's the last thing you do when you leave it?
Take a last breath of air. Ah, goosebumps. Yeah,
And isn't life about the moments that take your breath away? Because they
yeah.
capture you? It's in the breath.
Mm,
It's life force.
mm.
What do you do when you're overwhelmed? You take such a breath that you sigh because that resets your body.
So, in taking that breath, so you're in the chaos of New York City, or wherever you are, and you take that breath and you begin to breathe. And then what is the next step for us to do?
Where do I want to go? Because now that you've
Okay.
cleared your mind, you can just say,
Mm,
okay, where are I going to go? Okay, wait, how do I get there? And if you keep breathing and you keep your clear minded, all the answers are within you and you will get there.
mm,
And it will align, and it'll end up being the miracle. And all of a sudden, you thought you were going to miss your show, but it ended up better and you get an upgrade. All these things happen. Now, I have so many stories when it comes to that, like literally miraculous stories I have. And I'm always happy that most of the time there's people around me to witness the miracles. And I always tell people it's in the breath, it's connecting to life. It's being in your life force that really will make us happy. And like I said, it's such a simple answer that we reject it because we are in our head. No, it has to be this climb up the mountain kind of deal.
And I'm assuming that even through the fear and even through what our brain might categorize as suffering, the breathing just helps it be a little easier.
It relaxes your nerves. The brain is so powerful, your thoughts are so powerful that if you knew how powerful, you wouldn't allow yourself to have one negative one because you could drive yourself crazy. You could see things that are not even happening and make them happen. Take a beat, step back, breathe,
Mm,
because your thinking gives out an electrical charge. One time I was taking a spinning class and we're all writing, you know how spinning classes are loud and everyone's having fun. And all of a sudden you start hearing like a yell. And at first we're thinking like the person's like, yeah, but then all of a sudden the instructor gets off and the way that the lady had caught her tennis shoe on the pedal and it had twisted completely, almost like turned her ankle sideways. And she was
mm.
screaming in pain. And everyone's call 911 and because they don't want to touch it and all this thing is going on. And so I make waves and I said, let me just talk to her. And I look at her, I go, breathe with me. And she's like, bailing, she's crying. I go, just breathe. I need you to take some deep breaths with me. I got her within a minute to calm down her breath. And all of a sudden she was relaxed. And it was removed the pain because she got into some fear mode that was probably linked to something in her past, by the way, that just
Yeah.
it all. And then the fire department got there and they started, undoing it. Um, I was doing a yoga works in Santa Monica training and somebody got an epileptic seizure. And same thing, I just held him and I started to breathe because I knew that I couldn't get anxious because the whole room was anxious. It was a yoga training. And I was just like, I'm going to calm him by connecting my breath to his. And I breathe kind of fast to breathe with him. And once I got on his breathing, I gently started to breathe differently and it pulled out. And it was just amazing. People are like, how did you do that? And so it's very powerful. And so I just really tell people like breathing, meditating, yoga are huge. Stretching your body because your body, the book, The Body Keeps the Score, right? Like
Mm.
you have all of everything lived in there. So it's very hard for you to live in the present when your cells are expressing the data of everything you've ever lived that you fear. So it's very hard to be happy when you're doing that. But if you really started to be present and you started to pull yourself out of everything that you've lived that maybe didn't service you, how much more happier could you be? Like if you're just here right now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times is just being present, being in your breath, choosing that your purpose and what is that purpose? What is that song in your soul that you want to sing? Maybe it's to, love on your children. Maybe it's to create something. I don't know, but it should come from your heart.
I understand the what, and I understand a part of the how is in the breath. We did talk about earlier how fear blocks our happiness. Can we talk a little bit more about how to release that fear? I understand the breath is very important in releasing the fear, but there are other tools that we can use, whether they're energetic tools or heart mind tools that can help us release the fear that we have, whether they're based on something in the past, whether they're based on something in the future, that will keep us present and keep us in our joy.
Compression, sometimes just like squeezing your arms, put your alarm for 2 minutes and just like start at your hand, like use your right hand and compress your left hand, compress your wrists, breathe while you're doing that, compress the forearm, press the bicep. compress your rotator cuff, and then switch to the other side, all while you're deeply breathing, right? Because what that's doing when you're doing that compression, at first your brain is saying, "Hey, is this safe? Are we okay? Is she squeezing us too hard?" And it's like, "Oh no, everything's okay." That's also like when they do tapping.
Like EFT.
Yes. And so then the brain is like, "Oh no, no, it's okay." And so then all of a sudden it collapses. And so a lot of like the nervousness or anxiousness starts to leave you. Journaling is a huge one. Uh, you'd be surprised. I tell people just get 3 pages and just decide that you're going to write. And if you don't know what to write, just write. I'm sitting here not knowing what to write. I think this is dumb. And oh, I never realized how the sun comes in and then makes a shadow with the ball. And then all of a sudden, before they know it, they're actually going to start putting out their feelings. So journaling, not necessarily journaling on a subject, but just unpacking, what they're carrying. Sometimes we're packing on too much. We're carrying too much. A big one is if you like to dance, dancing, just shaking, shimmying. I think I've seen some memes like a shimmy a day keeps the doctor away or something like that. Just shimmying because shaking really does. Think about like what you right now, you just laughed and your body shook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so shaking, sifting, moving your hips, just
Mm.
like, and that's why yoga is so awesome because there's so many hip openers, and they're finding that the gentleman that I was teaching yoga yesterday, I did a psoas release that's in the hip area. And he said he got a lot of aha. And in science, the psoas muscle is your soul muscle, and that's where everything is kept. Got a lot of junk in the
Mm.
trunk. So hip shakes, hip stretches are really good. Watching movies, comedic movies, just to like laugh, being still, like even if it's just 5 minutes a day, like there is nothing I love more than to sit here where I am, as you can see me, and I love that I have a window, and I will just, this morning, the sun was coming in, I was just staring. Just being still, learning how to be still, because a lot of the times, and people will say, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't be still. Oh, my head is like," but that's cortisol, and that's driving you crazy in a sense, and you don't even realize it. So why not
Mm.
practice it? Put your timer on for 2 minutes and just say, "I'm going to be still,"
Yeah.
and breathe.
It feels so simple that it feels like it's not powerful enough to work, but I feel like that is the condition that's been placed on us in this society to say that we have to do something. It has to feel like it's work in order for it to actually have a purpose or for it to actually do something of value. And what you're saying is like it's actually so simple. It's be still, it's breathe, it's watch a funny movie, it's look out your window. And those things will help you release the fear and release those negative emotions that are blocking your happiness and blocking your joy.
Yes, everything you just mentioned, everything you just said, there's a frequency to it, right?
Yeah.
If you really
Mm.
understand that we've been wired to grind and to rush and scarcity and survival, and you unplug yourself from that, instant happiness.
The world is crazy right now. Like there's so many crazy things happening that are very scary, that cause a lot of anger, that cause a lot of people to be like pitted towards each other. How can we sustain this frequency of happiness in a world that is so not set up for us to?
Focus,
Mm.
focus on what I'm here to be. That's how I'm going to bend reality versus focusing on what people are trying to make be.
Mm.
There's a system that's trying to make some things be that we don't agree with. I remember hearing, I'm going to go to politics, for example. A lot of people voted the way that they voted for this current administration because they wanted the golden era to come back. And I'm like, the golden era.
What is that? For who?
That the in the golden era, there were still many things that were segregated because civil rights didn't start till the 60s. Do you understand that in 1954 they took like 1 million Mexican Americans out and sent them to Mexico, even though they were Mexican Americans?
Mm.
So I'm sorry, but I don't want the golden era.
No.
Okay. And so then that's an agenda, right? Bless the heart for everyone that's fighting, but we all fight different ways. I'm very focused on who I am and whose I am. And when I maintain myself in that focus, I keep getting myself in positions where I'm helping others level up. And as I continue to level up others and myself, the powers that are trying to make that be, it becomes harder and harder. It's not going to happen. It can't happen. It won't happen. And I know that I know that I know that I know that. It's too far gone. And if I focus on that, I have no fear. I have power. And when I stand in my power, I have authority, independent of what's going on. Now, I imagine that all people understood that they are the authority and power to create. Tell me that would be even having this administration even trying to attempt to do what they're doing. I get it. We need to protest. We need to fight. It all makes part. However, the biggest focus for me that I maintain my happiness is what is one thing I could do? Like, don't look at the macro, right? Because where change happens is in the micro. Even like in politics, right? It's not like the big 4-year elections. It's who we're sitting into these seats as senators and governors. That's actually the micro. That's where it's at. It's in your local. And so, but it's the same for you in your life. What's going on in my home? What's going on in my heart, in my mind? What's going on in my actual home with me and my children? Then what are we adding or subtracting to our community, our family, right? And so focus on what could you do to empower yourself, even if it's 1%, even if it's 1% a week, whether it's financial, whether it's physical, it's all connected. And so that's how I do it.
Mm.
And that's how I'm helping a lot of the people. A lot of my clients, like I was sharing, I have this client got some buku deals and he says, Raquel, everyone in my industry, like everything's dead and I'm getting deals left and right.
Mm.
I have another person that was like, Raquel, I have friends that can't find a job and they've been looking for 6 months and I keep getting offers that I have to keep declining. That they're literally like trying to scout them. Like, we know you're here, we want you to come work for us,
Mm.
right? But that's because of the frequency that they're living in.
And that's because they've connected their mind and their heart.
Mind, heart, or sorry, coherency, yes.
Mind, heart, coherency. Right.
They understand that they have the power to create the life that they want, and they understand it not just intellectually,
Mm.
not just emotionally, but in their nervous system. And when you get that trio, you get it in your mind, you get it in your heart, you get it in your body, your nervous system, then what comes alive is your spirit.
Mm.
And when the spirit comes alive, that's Harriet Tubman. That's the mama mentality. That's a spirit, right? Stephen Hawkins, Thomas Edison, like all these things, all these great things that happened or got created or were facilitated came from people that were in their spirit.
Mm.
So if you want to be happy, stop being so in the physical of everything that's going on and focus on how do I connect to my spirit? Because ultimately, that's going to get you clear. That's going to get you discernment. That's going to get you wisdom. That's going to get you connected That's going to get you coherent. And right there, you'll be happy with the what is, but you'll also be happy because you know that you can direct, you can guide, you can channel, you can move things.
Is that how we know our mind and our heart are cohesive?
Yes, fear starts to really, I'm not saying you won't have any fear, but it really takes a back seat. In some levels, it's gone, and in some levels where it still exists, you know to put it in the back seat with a tape in its mouth. And
Yeah,
I'm sure Harriet Tubman had
of
some fear,
course.
but
Yeah.
she put it in the back seat and she moved by spirit, right?
Mm,
So when we think of these things, the call to action is like, where are you living from?
mm,
Are you in your head? You can literally create art in this world when you're in your heart.
mm.
So just connecting those because you get into spirit.
For those of us who don't know or have yet to experience that coherent feeling between our heart and our mind, what does that feel like? What should we look out for?
There's no doubt. There's no shadows. There's no confusion. There's conviction. You are unapologetic. You, without a shadow of a doubt, this is what we're doing. This is where I'm at. This is the hill I die on. Like there is this conviction, it oozes out of your pores in such a way that it calls people forward next to you,
Mm,
shoulder to shoulder. And so it's infectious, it's contagious because it's very powerful. And the thing that I helped many others and myself get there is I created something called Archie. And so when I'm feeling or thinking something, I I ask myself, is this accurate? Is this accurate? Then I think, okay, where's my reasoning about this coming from? Is this reasoning from my past experiences? Is this reasoning from my culture? Is this reasoning from fear, past experience? Or is this high reasoning? Because I think what was Albert Einstein said, you can't get out of a problem with the same, frequency mind that you were in. So I want to check out where's this reasoning, and then what would my higher self reason, or what would a sage say about that or this? So I really look at where's my reasoning coming from. And anytime it's coming for that I can pinpoint it's coming from a past experience, oh, I already know I need to stop and I need to break this down. And maybe reach out to somebody that is where I want to be. I'm struggling with this. What do you think? And now I can hear different reasoning because they're in a different place in life, right? And you don't need like Bill Gates. You just need somebody that's one to two little ranks above where you are, because that would be so much help. Then I get concise. Like, okay, let me get really concise with this. The H is holy. Am I coming towards this from a place that's whole and complete for all parties? You'll never be happy when it's about you. There's something you're gonna leave like not right if we try to win lose, right? So holy is like, am I complete with this for all parties? I is infinite intelligence. That's going to your higher source, your higher power, God, infinite intelligence. Like what I understood happened in my childhood, I could understand it from from the superficial, just from my pain and what I was owed as a child to be taken care of and protected. But when I went to infinite intelligence, I comprehended all the different moving parts and the different layers. And in that infinite intelligence, not only did I release so much of my pain and my misinterpretation, I've really been able to embrace this beautiful love with my mom and see the love that she is, right? And so I don't have to be wounded with my mom. That's infinite intelligence. Like you're able to see it from such a much deeper comprehension, not just superficial cognitive ability. And then
mm,
E is the embodiment of it all. Because none of this matters if it's just thoughts. What really makes it matter is when you embody it, live it, be it, walk it. And so that's the E, that's an embodiment. What do they say? Change the way you think and change your life. That Archie is all about like how you're thinking, how you're perceiving. There's another great philosopher. He says, to be is to be perceived. So nothing is until it's perceived. So you can't be happy until you perceive for something to make you happy. Like a certain home, a keys to the house of your dreams might make you happy. And I'm like, I'm a nomad. I don't really want
Mm,
house keys. But can you give me like limitless air flights? That would make me excited. So do you see? Like, why does one make you happy but
yeah.
not me? And why does something make me happy and not you? So really breaking down the, like I said, the definition of happiness for you. Because a lot of the times we're chasing things that are just going to leave us with a little bit of a void when we get there. And then the other part is you're thinking. You want to be happy? That's going to be a choice. Okay, what do you mean by that? Okay, it's how you're thinking.
Mm,
It's the meaning that you're giving things. And so when you really start to look at these things, breathe, take a step back, clear your
yeah.
head, and start to really reflect, you're going to connect dots. And you connecting those dots will empower you, will free you, will liberate you, will uplift you, will prevent you from doing same mistakes. So basically is getting rid of the noise, getting rid of the static, getting rid of the social constructs, getting rid of all these things that we took on and maybe were originally imposed on us
Yeah.
from a young age, but we get to redo the blueprint. And then that's when you really get to consciously unplug from everything that you've been told. And then you get to create what you love. And you have the ability, and you have the resources. You are life force itself. The very same concepts that make up universe's world lives within us. That's like, just think about that.
Can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I feel like that is so perspective shifting and empowering.
We are humans in our most basic form, fight or flight. I need food, I need roof, I need shelter. There's this documentary I highly recommend everyone. It's called I Am. And there's tons of research where they do that. Let's say you're out freezing in the cold and somebody brings you in and they get you a blanket and some warm soup. All of a sudden you're happy, right? But then they say as you elevate and you make the blanket luxurious and you make this, it doesn't necessarily make you more happy, right? So it's kind of giving the thing, if you take care of the basics in the human, you're happy. All these ideas of all these extras that you want have been kind of imposed on you. But at the end of the day, when you're in your deathbed, you're not going to be asking for the keys to the Ferrari. You're going to want your loved one there. And often we miss that. So that's what it is to be human, right? And if we're able to get out of that construct, then we can become superhuman. And in superhuman, you have things that you admire, inspire, or aspire, like name whoever you want, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Oprah, whatever it is, right? They're superhuman. They've done things where they're leaving a legacy or have left a legacy. And we consider them superhumans because they accomplish what most people won't. Let's say top 3, 5%, right? So they're superhumans. And then there's my favorite, divinity. The very same essence that creates galaxies and worlds and universes lives in us. I love Maya Angelou when she said, you will never know your legacy, your true legacy. Because she says, It's that smile you put on that person when you were sitting next to them in the bus. That's your legacy. It's that person that remembers you, though they only met you once, because you lifted them up. Let go of the scripts, let go of the blueprints, let go of the noise, let go of the static, go into your breath, and there you have life force.
So before we wrap up, are there any final thoughts that you want to share that you feel like you want to express that you haven't expressed as of yet?
I just want to leave people that peace, love, happiness is not something to have. It's not something to get. It's not even something to give. It is actually what you are. You are love. You are peace. You are happiness. You are joy.
That's beautiful. One thing I'm asking every guest is, what is happiness to you? What does happiness mean to you outside of being a coach, outside of it being a teaching lesson? But for you personally, Raquel, what is happiness to you?
Living life by design on my terms, being able to exist. I have the right to exist. That's simple. I have the right to exist. I don't have to conform. I don't have to live by any rules. I just have a right to exist. And in that right, I choose to help people out of their pain to see that they're mad power. That's happiness to me. When I see my joy duplicated in others, that they too become free and liberated, that's happiness. How can I be happy if you're not? So that's happiness to me, is spreading happiness.
I love that. That's beautiful. This has been an absolute pleasure. Where can people find you if you'd like to be found?
B like victorious, because we help people get victorious, dash, just like the little hyphen, and then saga, saga.com. b-saga.com.
And that's actually one thing I wanted to ask you about your name. Do you mind explaining what the name of your company means?
So the V is for victorious. The dash is, what are you going to do with that dash you have here on life? You know how like 1976 dash, right? And then saga means iconic, epic, legendary stories. So you have so many stories, but you have the power to turn them into a victorious saga. So it's a play off of my last name, V dash saga, because my last name's Veisaga with a EI. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love this. This has been an absolute pleasure. Do you feel complete?
Whole and complete.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
You know, the part that really stuck with me in this episode is the reminder that I am the purpose. We are the purpose. We are the happiness. It's a theme we've heard again and again throughout this happiness arc, and I just love how empowering that is. Seekers, can we challenge ourselves this week to step out of the frequency of fear and into the frequency of happiness? For me, that's going to look like practicing deep gratitude every single day, especially when my girl, the amygdala, starts throwing her weight around. That's one way I can quiet the static and come back to my joy. What about you? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment and let me know how you're stepping into your own frequency of happiness. In our next and final episode of the Happiness Arc, we're going to talk to happiness coach Aisa Talia about how happiness can be a powerful tool for manifestation and help us manifest the life that we truly want. And I promise you, it is not cookie cutter law of attraction stuff. It actually goes beyond the law of attraction and taps into something really unique. I'm Julienne Irons, and this is The Hanged Woman. Until next time, hang in there, Seekers.